as we come to think about incentives, right? I was teeing this up earlier. Incentives are a very hot topic for many people because, especially this time of year, it's like bonus season and evaluation season, performance management. And what we know is that misaligned incentives are a major barrier to collaboration across silos. How many times have you heard leaders saying, yes, we want you to team up and collaborate and work across silos? And then the next day, they're giving some kind of an award or a bonus to the person who's the sharpest elbow jerk in the company, who hoards all their work and doesn't collaborate. And you're thinking, hang on a second, I thought you were the one who wanted us to work more collaboratively. Sending those kinds of signals is absolutely a killer for collaboration. And Ivan, when we teamed up to write this HBR article earlier in 22, we identified a bunch of the common mistakes. Maybe, Ivan, you want to give a quick example of this one, KPIs that are not focused on customer satisfaction. What are the KPIs focused on that's such a big mistake?
Well, I think the point here is that you need to think holistically and end to end about the objectives and the key performance indicators that you're trying to measure. What we saw is very often teams were creating incentives that were very narrowly focused on their process, their part of the overall chain. And what you get is this sub-optimization. So for example, let's say that you have a customer process that requires the engagement from sales and product and technology and customer service. Well, all of those pieces need to operate together to deliver an effective solution for the client. But if KPIs are set up so that they are narrowly focused on each of those, and each of those teams is trying to optimize just their world, you can get actually dysfunction in those organizations, and you can get people in sales doing things that optimize the outcome for sales, but actually have a negative impact on the technology team or the client service team, for example. And so what we saw is that if you get all of those groups aligned around customer satisfaction, the end result that they're all ultimately trying to deliver, then you'll drive much more collaboration across those teams.
Absolutely. So an organization that only measures salespeople on hitting their quotas means that those people are likely to be out there selling all kinds of things in a way that's really fast, and then doesn't optimize customer satisfaction down the line. You know, we also saw the problem of piecemeal incentives. So we describe in the article how organizations are trying to drop in little bits of bonuses or rewards somehow for collaborating on this topic or engaging on this product or project, or leading this initiative, and it adds up in ways that are not holistic, and again can result in some of the dysfunctional behavior that Ivan was talking about. Rewarding inputs and not outputs is a huge problem as well. If you say, oh, we're going to have a referral bonus system where if you bring in that second service line, you get a bonus for doing that. Well, the point is not to bring in the second service line for a customer, right? That might be something they don't actually need. So don't recognize the inputs, recognize the value that's generated for the customer, maybe by looking ultimately at their long-term revenues, not the instant sale, maybe by looking at their long-term customer satisfaction. There's also some other problems around mixing visionary and immediate goals. Lots of what collaboration, truly smarter collaboration, is tackling is these long-term initiatives, right? Decarbonization, carbon neutral supply chain. It's going to take decades to get there for some organizations. And if you don't have a special carve out, a place on the scorecard that measures people's progress and interim milestones toward that objective, they're going to say, hey, that's not important right now. Let's focus on the urgent, the stuff that's right in front of us. It's only human nature. So if you want those long-term visionary initiatives to get any traction, you've got to carve out space and make sure people have specific, measurable progress indicators of getting toward that long-term objective, and that they're bonused for it accordingly.
I just wanted to pause on that one for a second, because I think it's quite important. If you look at the sort of social psychology research, people are very motivated in a positive way by having, by achieving goals, right? And oftentimes what happens in an organization is people get very focused on those things that they can complete, those tasks that they can complete quickly, right? Because it gives them that sense of progress, which is positive. But as Heidi said, if people are very focused only on short-term goals, they'll tend to weight those and focus those more than the focus on that long-term vision, that long-term project that might take more than a quarter or even more than a fiscal year, right? And if you don't have incentive structures aligned to give people ways to be rewarded for things, for progress on projects that cross over, an annual bonus cycle, for example, they'll end up more and more focusing on those short-term goals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for anyone who wants to read more about that, Teresa Mabelay's book, The Progress Principle, lays out the psychology that Ivan was talking about in a lot of detail.